Hi, I'm Jeremy Gooding, and welcome to my studio in Lincoln, Nebraska. I just want to thank the Museum of Nebraska Art for the opportunity to be able to share with you this morning. I'd like to give you just a quick tour of the studio here and just talk a little bit about the work that I do. I'm a still life painter, and I work mostly in oil, but I'd like to show you a little bit more about what I do down here on the other end of the room. So I'm frequently asked, why still life? And I think a big part of the answer to that question lies in the ability to be able to compose paintings from the ground up, where literally every part of the painting is an active choice, and every element of the painting plays an important role in the composition through, moving the eye, color relationships. There's always this moment with still life where, it has its beginning, and the beginning to me really is in a completely blank setup table. And from there, I usually start with one piece of pottery, maybe two, and I start to add more elements to the painting until I start to see an idea emerge that is really compelling. And I sincerely want to paint that, and it usually relates to movement of the eye, color relationships, atmosphere, the sense of texture and form. All of those things kind of come together in some way that I just find really beautiful, and I think it's worth communicating. And so the table that I have set up here behind me, this is a setup that I started a few weeks ago, and it was a piece that really developed much like I had mentioned before with the one vessel, and then I just started to add more and more of these natural elements, and this piece is developed into something that is more complex. Oftentimes I gravitate towards things that are a little bit more minimal, but with this particular piece, it's got a greater degree of complexity, and I just really liked the relationship between all of the different wildflowers and this really interesting texture through the piece of pottery and the way that those related, and thought it was just beautiful and compelling. So the painting is probably about 90% done at this point. I've got all the major areas covered, a lot of the major elements are all there, and from here it's to a large degree a matter of just pushing things into the background, pulling things further forward, emphasizing things in areas that I want the eye to go, and de-emphasizing things in areas of the painting where I don't want the eye to spend very much time. Then I'm also developing this beautiful edge right here, which there's an incredibly beautiful thing that happens in form where light slips into darkness, and that's an important part of a painting to me, especially being a light and shadow painter. But I do get frequently asked what I paint on, what kind of surfaces I paint on, and I actually use a hardboard panel that has linen canvas affixed to it. And this particular piece is already been tinted with a raw umber, and I do that largely because I want to be able to read values off of a slightly darker surface rather than trying to read them off of white, which is very difficult to do. So I generally don't paint on a white canvas. It's always something that's toned like this. So once I have my panel prepared, then the next thing that I would want to do is to lay out the basic elements of the composition. And a lot of that is just getting the size and placement of objects on the surface. It gives me a chance to not use any kind of color or anything, to not get very committed to it at that point, but really just to figure out if the composition is working well spatially and with size and weight and placement on the surface that I've chosen. So once I get things pretty well squared away, Then I'll start working into color and developing a light and a dark side to different forms, and just getting a sense of what the color theme is going to look like. And I may even start to develop into some of the texture, and those things just continue to be refined and developed over the course of, a few days to a few weeks even. And so then you get to a point like this where the painting is getting close to being done. So in closing, I want to thank the Museum of Nebraska Art for the work that they do to represent and encourage the arts here in Nebraska. And if you're ever in the area of Kearney, Nebraska, I would highly encourage you to stop and visit the museum. I think you'll be very impressed by the facility and also the collection of work that they have there.